First contact and rescue. The starship Intrepid cut silently through the inky void, its sleek hull gleaming in the light of an alien sun. On the bridge, Captain Sarah Chen stood with her hands clasped behind her back, dark eyes fixed on the swirling orange planet that filled the main view screen. "Status report," she barked, her voice crisp and authoritative. Lieutenant Rodriguez, the ship's sensor officer, looked up from his console. "We're picking up multiple energy signatures on the surface, Captain. Definitely artificial in origin. And there's something else," he frowned, tapping at his controls. "I'm detecting life signs, but they're strange. Not like anything in our database." Chen nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. After months of searching, they'd finally found signs of extraterrestrial intelligence. "Well done, Lieutenant. Maintain orbit and continue scans. I want to know everything about this world before we make our presence known." As the crew bustled around her, Chen allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. The Intrepid's mission was one of peaceful exploration, seeking out new civilizations in humanity's first venture beyond their solar system. But they'd been prepared for the possibility of encountering hostile aliens. The ship's powerful shields and advanced weaponry were a testament to that. What they hadn't been prepared for was the scene unfolding on the planet below. "Captain," Rodriguez's voice was urgent, "I'm picking up weapons fire on the surface, and some kind of distress signal." Chen's eyes narrowed. On screen. The view screen flickered, showing a bird's-eye view of an alien city. Sleek, crystalline structures reached toward the sky, their beauty marred by pillars of smoke rising from multiple locations. As they watched, flashes of energy crisscrossed the streets. "It looks like some kind of battle," Chen muttered. She turned to her first officer. "Commander Reeves, assemble an away team. Full combat gear. We're going down there." Reeves looked startled. "Captain, with all due respect, the prime directive." "Doesn't apply here," Chen cut him off. "We're not interfering in the natural development of a pre-warp civilization. This is clearly an advanced society, and they're in trouble. We have a moral obligation to help if we can." Minutes later, Chen led a team of 6 through the shimmering curtain of the transporter beam, materializing in what appeared to be the outskirts of the alien city. The air was thick with the acrid smell of smoke and ozone, and the ground trembled with distant explosions. "Stay alert," Chen ordered, her particle rifle held at the ready. "We don't know who the good guys are here, if there are any. Our priority is to locate the source of that distress signal and render aid if possible." They moved cautiously through the empty streets, marveling at the alien architecture despite the tension of the situation. Everything seemed to be constructed of a pale, iridescent material that shimmered with its own inner light. A high-pitched whine was their only warning before a bolt of crackling energy slammed into the building next to them, showering the team with glittering debris. "Take cover," Chen shouted, diving behind a low wall. The others followed suit as more energy bolts filled the air. Through the chaos, Chen caught sight of movement. A group of tall, willowy figures was retreating down a side street, pursued by bulkier, armored forms. The fleeing aliens moved with a fluid grace that seemed almost choreographed, but Chen could see the fear in their large, multifaceted eyes. "This way," she called to her team, leading them in pursuit of the conflict. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with one of the armored attackers. It towered over them, easily 8 feet tall, with multiple limbs ending in vicious-looking claws. Before Chen could react, the alien leveled a weapon at her. Time seemed to slow as she stared down its pulsing barrel, knowing she couldn't possibly dodge in time. A blur of motion streaked past her. One of the willowy aliens had doubled back, throwing itself between Chen and the attacker. The energy bolt meant for her struck the alien square in the chest, and it crumpled to the ground with a keening cry. "Open fire," Chen shouted, her own weapon already blazing. The human weapons caught the armored alien by surprise, and it went down under a hail of particle beams. As the echoes of gunfire faded, Chen knelt beside the fallen alien who had saved her life. Its skin was a pale lavender, crisscrossed with intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with light. Those patterns were fading now as life ebbed from its body. The alien's multifaceted eyes fixed on Chen, and to her shock, it spoke. The words were unintelligible, but the tone was unmistakably one of gratitude and pleading. "We need a medical evac now." Chen barked into her communicator. She placed a comforting hand on the alien's shoulder, marveling at the silky texture of its skin. "Hold on," she said softly. "We're going to help you." The alien's eyes widened, and it reached out with a delicate, many-fingered hand to touch Chen's face. An electric tingle ran through her at the contact, and suddenly, impossibly, she could understand its words. "The young ones," it gasped. "Please, save the young ones." Before Chen could respond, the shimmer of the transporter beam enveloped them both, whisking them back to the safety of the Intrepid. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. The ship's medical bay was a flurry of motion as Dr. Patel and his team worked frantically to save the injured alien's life. Chen paced outside, her mind racing with the implications of what they'd stumbled into. "Captain," Reeves approached, his face grim. "We've managed to translate some of the transmissions from the surface. It appears we've stumbled into the middle of an invasion. The armored beings are called the Ksek, and they've been systematically conquering this sector of space." Chen nodded, her jaw set. "And the ones they're attacking? They call themselves Illyriani. From what we can gather, they're a peaceful race with powerful psychic abilities. The Ksek want to enslave them, use them as weapons in their war of conquest." Before Chen could respond, Dr. Patel emerged from the medical bay, looking exhausted but pleased. "She's going to make it, Captain. Her physiology is incredible, able to regenerate damage that would be fatal to a human." "She?" Chen raised an eyebrow. Patel nodded. "As near as we can tell, yes. And there's something else you should see." He led Chen into a small private room off the main medical bay. There, curled up on a bed that seemed far too large for them, were 3 small forms. Infant Illyriani, their skin a pale, shimmering blue. "The young ones," Chen breathed, remembering the injured alien's plea. As if sensing her presence, one of the infants stirred, opening eyes that seemed to contain entire galaxies. It reached out a tiny hand toward Chen, and she felt that same electric tingle she'd experienced on the planet's surface. A flood of images and emotions washed over her, fear, hope, and a desperate plea for help. Chen staggered, overwhelmed by the intensity of the psychic contact. When she regained her composure, she found Dr. Patel steadying her, concern etched on his face. "Captain, are you all right?" Chen nodded, her expression hardening with resolve. "I'm fine, Doctor, and I know what we need to do next." She tapped her communicator. "Bridge, this is the captain. Set a course for the nearest Federation outpost and engage at maximum warp. We need reinforcements." As the Intrepid leaped into faster-than-light travel, Chen looked down at the alien infants, marveling at the twist of fate that had brought them together. Humanity's first contact with an alien species had not gone at all as expected, but one thing was clear: the universe was a far more complex and dangerous place than they had ever imagined. And Sarah Chen, captain of the starship Intrepid, was now committed to a course of action that would change the fate of 2 species forever. Uneasy alliance and cultural clash. The starship Intrepid hurtled through space, its warp engines straining as Captain Sarah Chen pushed the vessel to its limits. In the ship's conference room, an emergency meeting was underway. "We're looking at a full-scale invasion," Commander Reeves said, gesturing to a holographic display of the Illyriani home system. Red icons representing Ksek warships swarmed around the pale orange planet. "Our long-range scans indicate the Ksek have already established multiple beachheads on the surface." Chen nodded grimly. "And the nearest Federation outpost?" 3 days away at maximum warp, Captain, Lieutenant Rodriguez replied. We've sent out a distress call, but by the time help arrives, it could be too late for the Liriani, Chen finished. She stood, pacing the length of the conference table. Options, people, I need options. Dr. Pertel cleared his throat. Captain, there's something you should know about our Liriani guests. The adult, she calls herself Zara. She's regained consciousness, and she's asking for you. Minutes later, Chen entered the medical bay. The Liriani Zara sat propped up on a bio-bed, her lavender skin shimmering with renewed vitality. Those mesmerizing, multifaceted eyes fixed on Chen the moment she entered. Captain, Zara said, her voice a musical trill that seemed to bypass Chen's ears and resonate directly in her mind. We have much to discuss. Chen approached cautiously. How are you able to speak our language? A ripple passed through Zara's skin, the Liriani equivalent of a smile, Chen guessed. We are quick studies, Captain, and the bond formed when I saved your life. It goes both ways. Over the next hour, Zara explained the situation on her homeworld. The Liriani were indeed a peaceful race, their powerful psychic abilities used primarily for art, healing, and communion with nature. The Kek, a warlike species from a distant sector, sought to enslave the Liriani and use their mental powers as weapons. But surely you could defend yourselves? Chen asked. With abilities like yours? Zara's skin darkened, a sign of distress. To use our gifts for violence goes against everything we believe. We would rather die free than live as weapons of war. Chen frowned. It was a noble sentiment, but one that could lead to the extinction of Zara's entire species. What about the children? She asked softly. Don't you have a responsibility to protect them? Zara's gaze shifted to where the 3 Liriani infants slept peacefully in a makeshift nursery. You are right, of course, which is why I have a proposal for you, Captain Chen, one that may save both our peoples. The plan Zara outlined was audacious, perhaps even foolhardy, but as Chen listened, she felt a growing sense of excitement. This was why humanity had ventured into the stars, not just to explore, but to make a difference. It's risky, Chen said when Zara had finished. My crew isn't trained for this kind of covert operation, and if we're caught... If we do nothing, my people will be enslaved or destroyed, Zara countered, and the Xek will not stop with us. Your Federation will be their next target. Chen nodded slowly. I'll need to discuss this with my officers, but I think we can help. The next few hours were a flurry of activity as the Intrepid prepared for its daring mission. The plan was simple in concept, if not in execution. Chen and a small team would accompany Zara back to the Liriani capital, posing as captives. Once inside the city's psychic defenses, they would work to disable the Xek's shield generators, allowing the Intrepid to launch a surprise attack from orbit. As Chen donned a disguise, her uniform replaced by flowing Liriani robes, she caught sight of her reflection in a mirror. The past few days had aged her, lines of worry etched around her eyes. But there was a fire there too, a determination that burned brighter than ever. Captain, Commander Reeves approached, his face a mask of concern. Are you sure about this? It goes against every regulation in the book. Chen met his gaze steadily. Sometimes, Commander, we have to write our own rules. The Federation sent us out here to make first contact, to forge new alliances. That's exactly what we're doing. Reese nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. Aye, Captain, good luck down there. The mission began smoothly enough. Chen, along with Lieutenant Rodriguez and Ensign Patel, the doctor's daughter and the team's technical expert, materialized on the outskirts of the Liriani capital. Zara led them through winding streets, past crystal spires that hummed with psychic energy. But as they neared the city center, things began to go wrong. A patrol of Xek soldiers appeared around a corner, their insectoid eyes narrowing suspiciously at the sight of the disguised humans. Chen felt a bead of sweat trickle down her spine as the lead Xek approached, chitinous mandibles clicking ominously. This was it, Their cover was about to be blown wide open. Suddenly, Zara stepped forward, her skin rippling with patterns Chen hadn't seen before. The Liriani's eyes locked with the Xek soldiers, and Chen felt a wave of psychic energy wash over her. The Xek stiffened, then relaxed. Without a word, they turned and marched away, as if the group was invisible. What just happened? Rodriguez whispered. Zara's skin had paled, the effort of the psychic manipulation clearly taking its toll. "I convinced them we weren't here," she said weakly. "But it goes against our deepest beliefs to manipulate minds in such a way. I'm not sure how many more times I can do that." Chen squeezed Zara's shoulder gently. "You did what you had to do. We'll find another way." But as they continued deeper into the occupied city, it became clear that stealth alone wouldn't be enough. The Xek presence was overwhelming, with patrols on every corner and gunships circling overhead. They took shelter in an abandoned building, its crystalline walls humming faintly with residual psychic energy. As Chen and her team huddled around a makeshift communications device, trying to contact the Intrepid, Zara stood by a window, her gaze distant. "My people are suffering," she said softly. "I can feel their pain, their fear. It's overwhelming." Chen joined her at the window, watching as a group of Liriani civilians was herded down the street by Czech guards. "We'll stop this," she promised. "Somehow, we'll find a way." Zara turned to her, those alien eyes seeming to peer into Chen's very soul. "You truly believe that, don't you? Even in the face of such odds?" Chen nodded. "It's what humans do. We don't give up, no matter how impossible things seem." A flicker of something, hope perhaps, passed across Zora's features. "Then perhaps it is time for my people to learn from yours. To fight, even if it goes against our nature." As if in response to her words, a distant explosion rocked the city. Chen raced back to the communications device, where Rodriguez was listening intently. "Captain," he said, his voice tight with excitement, "it's the Intrepid. They're engaging the Xek fleet in orbit. And they're not alone." Chen's eyes widened. "The Federation reinforcements." Rodriguez shook his head. "No, ma'am. It's the Liriani. Hundreds of small ships rising up from hidden bases all over the planet. They're attacking the Xek." A fierce grin spread across Chen's face. She turned to Zara, who looked equally shocked and exhilarated. "Looks like your people decided not to wait for us after all." Zara's skin rippled with complex patterns of light. "Then we must not let their sacrifice be in vain. Come, Captain. It's time to end this invasion once and for all." As they stepped out into the chaos-filled streets, Chen felt a surge of determination. The battle for the Liriani homeworld, and perhaps the future of this entire sector of space, was about to begin in earnest. And Zara Chen, captain of the starship Intrepid, was ready to make history. Journey through hostile space. The streets of the Liriani capital had become a war zone. Energy beams crisscrossed the sky as Kek gunships engaged with the newly risen Liriani defense forces. On the ground, chaos reigned. Captain Zara Chen led her small team through the mayhem, Zara at her side. "We need to reach the central citadel," Zara shouted over the din of battle. "That's where the Xek have established their command center. If we can disable their shields, your ship can target their leadership and end this invasion." Chen nodded grimly, her borrowed Liriani robes singed and torn. "Easier said than done. How do we get past their defenses?" A sleek smile played across Zora's features. "We go under them." The Liriani led them to what appeared to be a solid crystal wall. With a touch of her hand and a pulse of psychic energy, a hidden door slid open, revealing a network of shimmering tunnels. "Ancient transit tubes," Zara explained as they hurried inside. "They run beneath the entire city. The Xek don't know about them." As they raced through the glowing passageways, Chen couldn't help but marvel at the Liriani's technology. Every surface seemed alive with pulsing energy, responding to Zara's mental commands. "Captain," Lieutenant Rodriguez called out, checking a handheld scanner. I'm picking up some strange readings ahead, almost like the tunnel is alive. Before Chen could respond, the passage in front of them began to undulate. The crystalline walls flowed like liquid, forming a barrier. Zora's eyes widened in alarm. The city's defense systems, they've been activated to repel the invasion. They don't recognize us as friendlies. Can you communicate with it? Chen asked urgently. Tell it we're here to help. Zora placed her hands on the shifting crystal surface, her skin flickering with complex patterns. I'm trying, but the system is in full defensive mode. It's not listening to reason. Ensign Patel stepped forward, her young face set with determination. Maybe it'll listen to this. She pulled out a small device and pressed it against the wall. A high-pitched whine filled the air, and the crystal barrier shuddered. A harmonic resonator, Patel explained with a grin, tuned to the exact frequency of Liriani crystal, should disrupt the... Her words were cut off as the barrier exploded outward, showering them with glittering shards. The tunnel beyond was clear. Nice work, Ensign, Chen said, clapping the young officer on the shoulder. Let's move. They pressed on, racing against time as the sounds of battle grew louder above them. Finally, they emerged into a vast underground chamber. At its center stood a pillar of pulsing energy, the main power source for the Klex shield generators. We need to overload it, Rodriguez said, studying the alien technology. But it's protected by some kind of psychic barrier. Our weapons can't penetrate it. Zora stepped forward, her expression grim. Then it's up to me. But Captain, what I'm about to do goes against everything my people believe in. It may change me in ways I can't predict. Chen met the Liriani's multifaceted gaze. Sometimes we have to make hard choices to protect what we love. Whatever happens, Zora, you won't face it alone. Nodding gratefully, Zora approached the energy pillar. She placed her hands on its surface, and immediately her body went rigid. Patterns of light raced across her skin, faster and more chaotic than Chen had ever seen. The air in the chamber grew thick with psychic energy. Chen felt it pressing against her mind, alien thoughts and emotions threatening to overwhelm her. She gritted her teeth, focusing on her mission, on her duty to her crew and to the Liriani people. With a sound like shattering glass, the psychic barrier around the pillar collapsed. Zora stumbled backward, caught by Chen before she could fall. Now, Rodriguez, Chen shouted. The lieutenant didn't hesitate. He fired his particle rifle directly into the exposed core of the energy pillar. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The pillar exploded in a blinding flash of light, and the entire chamber began to shake. The shields are down, Patel yelled, checking her scanner. But this whole place is coming apart. We need to get out of here. Chen tapped her communicator. Intrepid, this is the captain. Shields are down. Take out that command center and beam us out of here. As the crystal walls around them began to crumble, Chen felt the familiar tingle of the transporter beam. The last thing she saw before the chamber dissolved into light was Zora's face, transformed by an expression of fierce triumph, and something else, something alien and unknowable. They materialized on the Intrepid's bridge in a shower of sparks. The ship rocked under the impact of enemy fire. Report, Chen barked, immediately taking command. Xek fleet is in disarray, Reeves reported from the tactical station. Their command structure is gone, but they're fighting like cornered animals. We've taken heavy damage. Chen strapped herself into the captain's chair. What about the Liriani forces? Still engaging, but they're not built for this kind of combat. They're taking heavy losses. A grim silence fell over the bridge. They'd succeeded in their mission, but at what cost? How many Liriani lives had been lost in this battle that went against their very nature? Zora's voice cut through the tension. Captain, if I may, I have an idea, but I'll need access to your ship's communications array. Chen hesitated only a moment before nodding. Do it. The Liriani moved to the communications station, placing her hands on the console. Her skin began to glow with an inner light pulsing in complex patterns. Suddenly, every screen on the bridge came to life with a swirling vortex of color and light. A wave of psychic energy washed over the crew, not hostile but overwhelming in its airiness. Chen heard Rodriguez gasp, "Captain, look." On the main view screen, the battle had frozen. Kazekh and Liriani ships alike hung motionless in space. Then, slowly at first but with gathering speed, the Kazekh vessels began to turn away. They're retreating, Reeve said in disbelief. All of them. It's like they've lost the will to fight. Chen turned to Zara, who stood swaying at the communications station. "What did you do?" The Liriani's eyes were distant, unfocused. "I showed them everything. Our history, our culture, our hopes and fears. And theirs as well. For a moment, we were all one." As the implications of what Zara had done sank in, Chen felt a mix of awe and unease. The power to reach into the minds of an entire invasion fleet, to change their very motivations. It was beyond anything she had imagined possible. "Captain," Reeves said quietly, "we're being hailed. It's Starfleet Command." Chen took a deep breath, straightening her singed uniform. On screen, as the face of Admiral Nguyen appeared, stern and questioning, Chen realized that the real battle was just beginning. How could she explain what had happened here? The alliances forged, the lines crossed, the powers unleashed. But as she glanced at Zara, standing tall despite her exhaustion, Chen knew one thing for certain: the universe had changed today, and humanity's role in it would never be the same. "Admiral," she said, her voice steady, "you're not going to believe what I'm about to tell you." Uncovering a galactic conspiracy. The debriefing with Admiral Nguyen lasted for hours. Captain Sarah Chen recounted every detail of their encounter with the Liriani and the battle against the Kazekh invasion force. As she spoke, she could see the mix of awe and concern on the Admiral's face. "This is unprecedented, Captain Chen," Nguyen said finally. "First contact, armed intervention in an alien conflict, and a display of psychic abilities beyond anything we've encountered before. The Federation Council is going to have a field day with this." Chen nodded grimly. "I understand, sir. I take full responsibility for my actions." "Your actions may have saved an entire civilization, Captain," Nguyen replied. "But they've also opened up a Pandora's box of diplomatic and ethical questions. For now, you're to remain in orbit around the Liriani homeworld. Assist with humanitarian efforts, but do not intervene further in their internal affairs. A diplomatic team will be arriving within the week." As the transmission ended, Chen leaned back in her chair, exhaling slowly. She'd known there would be consequences, but the reality of it was starting to sink in. A gentle knock at her ready room door roused her from her thoughts. "Enter," she called. Zara glided in, her movements as graceful as ever, but there was a new weight to her bearing. The events of the past few days had clearly taken their toll. "Captain," she said, her melodious voice tinged with concern, "I sensed your distress. Are you all right?" Chen managed a small smile. "I'm fine, Zara. Just processing everything that's happened. How are you holding up?" The Liriani's skin rippled with complex patterns, a sign of emotional turmoil, Chen had learned. "I am changed," Zara admitted. "The actions I took, the minds I touched, it has altered me in ways I'm still trying to understand." Chen leaned forward, her expression softening. "If there's anything we can do to help." "Actually, Captain, there is," Zara said, her multifaceted eyes gleaming with a new intensity. "In the moment when I connected with the Kazekh fleet, I saw something that I believe poses a grave threat not just to my people, but to yours as well." Chen's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "The Kazekh invasion wasn't just about conquering my world," Zara explained. "It was part of a larger plan. There's an organization operating in the shadows, manipulating species against each other. They call themselves the Concordat." A chill ran down Chen's spine. "What's their goal?" "To reshape the galaxy in their image," Zara said grimly. They believe that conflict breeds strength, that only through constant struggle can species truly evolve. The Xek were just pawns in their game. Chen stood, pacing the length of her ready room. This is, if you're right, this changes everything. But we need proof. Something concrete we can take to Starfleet. Zara nodded. I believe I know where we can find it. When I was connected to the Xek fleet, I caught glimpses of a hidden base. A place where the Concordat coordinates their operations in this sector. Where? Chen asked, already reaching for her communicator. A system on the edge of Xek space, officially uninhabited, but I saw it clearly in their minds. A massive station, cloaked from normal sensors. Chen's mind raced with the implications. If what Zara was saying was true, they were on the verge of uncovering a conspiracy that could reshape the political landscape of the entire quadrant. But it would mean defying Starfleet's orders, risking her career and possibly her freedom. She met Zara's gaze, seeing the same determination reflected there. If we do this, there's no going back. We'll be operating without official sanction, possibly branded as renegades. My people have a saying, Zara replied, her skin glowing with a soft light. The truth fears no darkness. We must bring this threat into the light, whatever the cost. Chen nodded, her decision made. She tapped her communicator. Senior officers to the briefing room immediately. We have a new mission. Within the hour, the Intrepid was underway, slipping away from Liriani orbit under the cover of a convenient solar flare. As the ship accelerated to warp speed, Chen looked around the bridge at her crew. They'd followed her into battle against impossible odds. Now she was asking them to risk everything on the word of an alien telepath and a hunch. Last chance to back out, she said softly. Anyone who wants to stay behind, I'll understand. Commander Reeves spoke for them all. With all due respect, Captain, we're with you to the end. Whatever's out there, we'll face it together. Chen felt a swell of pride. This was what it meant to be a Starfleet officer, to seek out the unknown, to stand up for what was right, no matter the cost. As the Intrepid streaked through the stars, none of them could have imagined the true scale of the conspiracy they were about to uncover, or the ancient powers they would soon awaken. The journey to the edge of Xek space was tense. Every passing ship, every anomalous sensor reading could have been a Starfleet patrol sent to intercept them. But Zara's psychic abilities, enhanced by her recent experiences, allowed them to navigate unseen. Finally, they arrived at the coordinates Zara had gleaned from the Xek mines. At first glance, the system appeared empty. An unremarkable red dwarf star orbited by a handful of barren rocks. Are you sure this is the place? Rodriguez asked, peering at his sensor readouts. Zara nodded, her skin pulsing with anticipation. It's here. I can feel it. Chen turned to her science officer. Mr. Patel, recalibrate the sensors based on the data we gathered from the Liriani crystals. Look for any unusual energy signatures. For several tense minutes, nothing happened. Then suddenly, Patel's console lit up like a Christmas tree. Captain, I'm detecting a massive structure. It was hidden behind some kind of phase-shifted cloaking field. On the main view screen, the empty space before them shimmered and distorted. Slowly, an enormous station faded into view. It was unlike anything they'd ever seen, a twisted amalgamation of technologies from a dozen different species, all melded together into a nightmarish whole. Life signs? Chen asked, her voice tight. Hundreds, Patel replied. Multiple species, and, Captain, I'm detecting weapons powering up. They've seen us. Chen's mind raced. They were outgunned and out of their depth, but they'd come too far to turn back now. Red alert, she barked. Shields up, evasive maneuvers. Zara, can you do anything to mask our presence? The Liriani closed her eyes, concentrating. A soft glow emanated from her skin, spreading throughout the bridge. Chen felt a subtle pressure in her mind, like a protective bubble forming around the ship. Just in time. A barrage of energy weapons lashed out from the station, but the beams seemed to bend around the Intrepid, missing by mere meters. "It's working," Reeves exclaimed, "but I don't know how long we can keep this up." Chen nodded grimly. "We need to get aboard that station, find out what they're up to and gather evidence. Zara, can you locate a safe place for us to beam in?" The Luriani's eyes snapped open, glowing with an inner light. "Yes, there's a section of the station that seems less heavily guarded. But Captain, I sense something else. A presence, ancient and powerful. It's calling to me." A shudder ran through the ship as another volley of weapons fire grazed their shields. Chen made her decision. "Assemble an away team. We're going in." As Chen, Zara, and a small group of officers materialized inside the Concordat station, they found themselves in a dimly lit corridor. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and alien chemicals. "This way," Zara whispered, leading them deeper into the maze-like structure. "I can sense the station's central core. That's where we'll find the answers we seek." As they crept through the shadows, avoiding Concordat patrols, Shen couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into something far bigger than they'd anticipated. The fate of not just the Liriani or the Federation, but perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. And somewhere in the depths of this twisted station, an ancient power was stirring, drawn by Zora's awakened abilities. The true nature of the Concordat's plans was about to be revealed, and nothing would ever be the same. Battle for the fate of two species. The corridors of the Concordat station twisted and turned, a maddening maze of alien architecture. Captain Sarah Chen led her team through the shadows, every sense on high alert. Beside her, Zara moved with eerie grace, her skin pulsing with faint light as she used her psychic abilities to guide them. "We're close," Zara whispered, her multifaceted eyes gleaming in the dim light. "The central core is just ahead. But there's something else. A presence. It's getting stronger." Chen nodded grimly. "Stay focused. We need to find concrete evidence of the Concordat's plans before." Her words were cut off by a piercing alarm. Red lights began to flash along the corridor walls. "They've detected us," Lieutenant Rodriguez hissed, raising his phaser. "Move," Chen ordered, and the team broke into a run. They rounded a corner and found themselves face to face with a group of Concordat guards, a motley assortment of species, all wearing the same sleek black armor. For a moment, both sides froze in surprise. Then all hell broke loose. Phaser fire lit up the corridor as Chen and her team dove for cover. The air crackled with energy bolts and the acrid smell of ozone. Chen caught glimpses of her crew in action, Rodriguez laying down suppressing fire, Ensign Potel working furiously to hack into a nearby control panel. But it was Zara who turned the tide. The Liriani stepped into the open, her skin blazing with psychic energy. She raised her hands, and a wave of invisible force slammed into the Concordat guards, sending them flying. "This way," Zara called, gesturing toward a massive set of doors at the end of the corridor. "The core is through there." As they raced toward their goal, Chen couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. This was too easy. Where were the station's main defenses? The doors hissed open as they approached, revealing a vast chamber beyond. At its center stood a pillar of swirling energy, pulsing with colors Chen had never seen before. "The core," Zara breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. It's alive." Chen stepped forward cautiously, her tricorder raised. "What is it? Some kind of power source?" Before Zara could answer, a new voice rang out, deep, resonant, and utterly alien. "It is the key to reshaping the galaxy." From the shadows stepped a figure unlike any Chen had ever seen. It was vaguely humanoid, but its body seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Its eyes were pools of swirling darkness. "I am Xanthor," the being announced. "Last of the precursors and architect of the Concordat." Chen's mind reeled. The precursors were supposed to be a myth, an ancient race that had seeded the galaxy with life eons ago before vanishing into legend. "Why?" she demanded, her voice steady despite her shock. "Why pit species against each other? Why cause so much suffering?" Xantho's liquid metal face rippled in what might have been a smile. Because conflict breeds strength, Captain Chen. For too long, the younger races have stagnated, growing soft and complacent. The Concordate exists to rekindle the fires of evolution. By forcing us to fight endless wars, Chen spat, that's not evolution, it's genocide. The precursor's eyes flashed. You cannot comprehend the scale of what is coming. The galaxy faces a threat beyond your imagining. Only through struggle can you hope to survive. Zara stepped forward, her skin pulsing with barely contained energy. You're wrong, she said, her voice ringing with conviction. Unity is strength. Cooperation, not conflict, is the key to survival. Xantho turned its gaze on the Liriani, and for the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed its alien features. You are changed. The potential within you has awakened. Thanks to you, Zara replied. Your actions forced my people to evolve, to tap into abilities we had long suppressed, but not for war, for peace. The chamber trembled as Zara's psychic power surged. Chen felt it wash over her, not invasive, but comforting, like a warm blanket on a cold night. She saw her crew straighten, newfound determination in their eyes. Xantho took a step back. No, this is not possible. The core cannot be controlled by. But Zara was already moving. She placed her hands on the pulsing energy pillar, and the entire station seemed to come alive. Lights flickered, panels exploded in showers of sparks. Captain, Rodriguez shouted over the growing chaos. The station's power grid is overloading. We need to get out of here. Chen nodded, tapping her communicator. Chen to Intrepid. Emergency beam out, now. As the familiar tingle of the transporter took hold, Chen locked eyes with Xantho. The ancient being's face was a mask of disbelief and fury. This isn't over, it snarled. The threat still comes. You've doomed us all. Then the world dissolved in a shimmer of light. They materialized on the Intrepid's bridge, just as a massive explosion rocked the ship. On the viewscreen, Chen watched as the Concordat station tore itself apart in a spectacular eruption of energy. Get us out of here, maximum warp, she ordered. As the stars streaked into lines, Chen turned to Zara. The Liriani stood tall, her skin glowing with a soft inner light. Are you all right? Chen asked softly. Zara nodded, a small smile playing across her alien features. I am. More than all right, Captain. I understand now. The power Xantho sought to control, it was never meant for domination. It's a gift meant to be shared. Chen furrowed her brow. What do you mean? The precursors didn't vanish, Zara explained. They evolved, became beings of pure energy and thought. The core was a gateway, a means for younger races to follow in their footsteps. But Xantho, in its fear and isolation, misunderstood its purpose. The implications were staggering. Chen felt as though the universe had suddenly expanded, revealing new horizons she'd never dreamed possible. So what happens now? She asked. Zara's multifaceted eyes seemed to peer into the future. Now, Captain, we prepare. Xantho was right about one thing. A great challenge is coming. But we'll face it not through conflict, but through unity. The Liriani, humans, and all the species of the galaxy working together. As the Intrepid raced back toward Federation space, Chen knew that nothing would ever be the same. They had uncovered a conspiracy, toppled an ancient power, and glimpsed the next step in galactic evolution. But the journey was far from over. Whatever threat Xantho had foreseen still loomed on the horizon, and Sarah Chen, captain of the starship Intrepid, would be damned if she wasn't going to be ready for it. The true test of humanity's place in the cosmos was just beginning. A new era of cooperation. The journey back to Earth was tense. Captain Sarah Chen spent most of it preparing her report, knowing full well that the story she had to tell would shake the foundations of the Federation. Zara remained by her side, her presence a constant reminder of how much had changed in such a short time. As the Intrepid approached Earth, A fleet of Starfleet vessels moved to intercept them. Chen had expected as much, but it still sent a chill down her spine. "We're being hailed," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. "It's Admiral Nguyen." Chen took a deep breath. On screen, the Admiral's face appeared, his expression a mix of concern and barely contained anger. "Captain Chen, you are ordered to surrender your vessel and prepare to be boarded. You've gone too far this time." Before Chen could respond, Zara stepped forward. "Admiral," she said, her melodious voice filled with quiet authority, "I must insist that you hear us out. The fate of the galaxy may depend on it." Nguyen's eyes widened as he took in the Liriani's appearance. After a moment, he nodded curtly. "Very well. You have 1 hour to present your case to the Federation Council. Make it count." The next few hours were a whirlwind. Chen, Zara, and the senior staff of the Intrepid found themselves in the heart of Starfleet Command, facing the assembled leaders of the Federation. As Chen recounted their adventure, the Concordat, Asanthor, and the true nature of the precursor technology, she could see the mix of disbelief and awe on the faces before her. When she finished, there was a long moment of silence. Then, to Chen's surprise, it was Ambassador Sarek of Vulcan who spoke first. "Captain Chen's actions, while unorthodox, may have averted a grave threat to the Federation, and indeed to all sentient life in the galaxy," he said, his voice calm and measured. "Logic dictates that we consider carefully the implications of this new information." A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. Admiral Nguyen leaned forward, his earlier anger replaced by intense curiosity. "This evolution you spoke of, Ms. Zara, can you demonstrate it?" Zara nodded, stepping to the center of the room. She closed her eyes, and a soft glow began to emanate from her skin. The air shimmered around her, and suddenly, every mind in the room was touched by a gentle presence, not invasive, but inviting. In that moment, they all saw glimpses of the future Zara had described. A galaxy united, species working together to unlock the secrets of the universe. The next step in cosmic evolution, not through conflict, but through cooperation and understanding. As the vision faded, there wasn't a dry eye in the chamber. Even the usually stoic Vulcans looked moved. "We stand at a crossroads," Zara said softly. "The threat Xanthor foresaw is still coming, but now we have a chance to face it together as a united galaxy." The debate that followed lasted for days, but in the end, the decision was unanimous. The Federation would not only pardon Chen and her crew, but would spearhead a new initiative, the Galactic Cooperation Project. In the months that followed, Chen watched with pride as the fruits of their adventure began to blossom. Liriani teachers arrived on Earth, helping humans unlock their own latent psychic potential. Federation scientists worked alongside their counterparts from a dozen species, studying the fragments of precursor technology they'd managed to salvage. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. There were those who feared change, who saw the merging of different species' abilities as a threat. And somewhere out in the darkness of space, the true nature of the coming threat remained unknown. 1 year to the day after their fateful encounter with Xanthor, Chen stood on the observation deck of the newly refitted Intrepid. Zara stood beside her, both of them gazing out at the stars. "Are you ready for this?" Chen asked softly. Zara's skin shimmered with patterns of excitement and determination. "More than ready, Zara. The galaxy is changing. We need to be out there, building bridges, preparing for whatever comes next." Chen nodded, a smile tugging at her lips. The Intrepid had a new mission now, to seek out new life and new civilizations, not just to observe, but to invite them into a grand alliance, to prepare the galaxy for evolution. As she turned to head to the bridge, Chen caught sight of her reflection in the viewport. She looked different, older in some ways, but with a new light in her eyes. The universe had changed, and so had she. "Captain to all hands," she said, tapping her communicator. "Prepare for departure." The Intrepid's engines hummed to life, and the great ship began to move. As they cleared Earth's orbit, Chen gave the order she'd been waiting for. Helm, set course for the Andromeda Galaxy, maximum warp. The stars stretched into lines of light, and the Intrepid leaped into the unknown. Whatever challenges awaited them, whatever threats loomed on the horizon, they would face them together, not just as a crew, not just as representatives of Earth or Lyria, but as pioneers of a new age of galactic cooperation. The adventure, Chen realized with a thrill of excitement, was only just beginning. Echoes of the precursors. The Intrepid streaked through the vast emptiness between the Milky Way and Andromeda galaxies, its advanced warp engines pushing the boundaries of known physics. Captain Sarah Chen sat in her ready room, poring over the latest reports from across the Federation. The Galactic Cooperation Project was making strides, but challenges remained. A chime at her door interrupted her thoughts. "Enter," she called. Zara glided in, her skin shimmering with complex patterns that Chen had learned to read as a mix of excitement and concern. "Sarah, I've been meditating, trying to extend my psychic senses across the intergalactic void. I felt something." Chen leaned forward, instantly alert. "What kind of something?" "It's faint, like an echo," Zara said, her multifaceted eyes distant. "But I believe it's a signal. From the precursors." Chen's mind raced with the implications. "Can you pinpoint its origin?" Zara nodded. "It's coming from a stellar cluster just at the edge of Andromeda." "But Sarah, there's more. The signal, it feels urgent, almost like a warning." Before Chen could respond, the ship's red alert klaxon blared. She rushed to the bridge, Zara close behind. "Report," Chen barked as she took her seat. Commander Rees looked up from his console, his face pale. "Captain, we're detecting a massive energy surge directly ahead. It's like nothing we've ever seen before." The view screen flickered to life, showing a swirling vortex of energy that seemed to dwarf the Intrepid. As they watched, something began to emerge from its center. "My God," Lieutenant Rodriguez whispered, "it's a ship." But ship hardly seemed adequate to describe the construct that materialized before them. It was a city in space, a sprawling metropolis of gleaming spires and pulsing energy fields that dwarfed even the largest Federation starbases. "We're being hailed," Ensign Patel reported, her voice shaking slightly. Chen exchanged a glance with Zara, who nodded encouragingly. On screen, the captain ordered. The image that appeared was unlike anything they had ever seen. It was a being of pure energy, its form constantly shifting and flowing. When it spoke, its voice seemed to bypass their ears entirely, resonating directly in their minds. "Greetings, children of the younger races," the being said. "I am Aeonis, emissary of the Precursor Conclave. We have been watching your progress with great interest." Chen stood, straightening her uniform. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Federation of Planets. We come in peace and in the spirit of cooperation." Aeonis' form shimmered, a gesture that might have been approval. "Your recent actions have not gone unnoticed, Captain. The defeat of Xanthor and the beginnings of your Galactic Cooperation Project have proven that you may be ready for what is to come." "And what exactly is coming?" Chen asked, a knot of tension forming in her stomach. The energy being's next words sent a chill through the entire bridge crew. "The Void Seekers, an extragalactic threat that nearly destroyed our civilization eons ago. They consume entire galaxies, and they are awakening once more." As Aeonis explained further, Chen felt the weight of history settling on her shoulders. The precursors had fought the Void Seekers to a stalemate, but at a terrible cost. They had been forced to transcend their physical forms, becoming beings of pure energy and thought. Now, with the threat resurging, they needed the younger races to stand with them. "We offer you knowledge," Aeonis said, "and the means to unlock your own latent potential. But the choice to evolve, to take the next step in cosmic awareness, must be yours." Chen looked around at her crew, seeing the mix of fear and determination on their faces. She thought of Earth, of the fledgling alliance they were building, of all the worlds that knew nothing of the danger approaching. "We accept your offer," Chen said firmly. "Whatever it takes to protect our galaxy, all galaxies, we'll do it." Aeon's form pulsed with what might have been satisfaction. "Then let the next phase of your journey begin." As the energy being's consciousness touched their minds, Chen and her crew gasped in unison. Visions of unimaginable technologies, of cosmic forces beyond their comprehension, flooded their awareness. And with it came understanding. The Void Seekers were not just a physical threat, but a conceptual one, the embodiment of entropy and decay on a cosmic scale. To fight them would require more than weapons. It would demand a fundamental shift in the very nature of sentient life. As the visions faded, Chen found herself changed. She could feel the thoughts of her crew, sense the vast tapestry of spacetime around them. Looking at Zara, she saw not just the Liriani's physical form, but the intricate web of psychic energy that made up her true self. "Captain," Reeve said, his voice filled with awe, I think we've just taken the first step towards becoming like the precursors." Chen nodded, still processing the enormity of what had just happened. "We have. But this is just the beginning. We need to get this information back to the Federation, to all our allies. The real work starts now." As the Intrepid prepared to return to the Milky Way, Chen knew that nothing would ever be the same. They had glimpsed the true nature of reality, the forces that shaped the cosmos. And they had accepted a responsibility greater than any in human history. The battle for the future of all life was about to begin, and Sarah Chen, once just the captain of an exploratory vessel, now found herself at the forefront of galactic evolution. The Intrepid's journey home would mark the dawn of a new era. An era of transformation, of unity in the face of cosmic peril. The line between science and mysticism would blur as species across the galaxy awakened to their true potential. And somewhere in the vast darkness between galaxies, the Void Seekers stirred, unaware that their ancient enemies had found new champions in the races they had once dismissed as insignificant. The stage was set for a conflict that would reshape the very fabric of the universe. The Awakening. The Intrepid's return to Earth was met with a mixture of awe and trepidation. As Captain Sarah Chen and her crew stepped off the ship, their altered state was immediately apparent. There was an otherworldly quality to their movements, a depth to their eyes that spoke of knowledge beyond mortal ken. Admiral Nguyen was there to greet them, his face a mask of concern. "Captain Chen, what happened out there? Your transmissions were difficult to comprehend." Chen smiled, a gesture that seemed to ripple through the air around her. "Admiral, we've got a lot to discuss. The fate of not just our galaxy, but all of existence hangs in the balance." Over the next few days, Chen and her crew briefed the Federation Council, Starfleet Command, and representatives from allied species. The information they shared about the precursors, the Void Seekers, and the potential for galactic evolution was met with a range of reactions from excitement to outright disbelief. But it was Zora who truly captured their attention. The Liriani, already possessing formidable psychic abilities, had been transformed by the precursor knowledge. In a demonstration that left the assembled leaders speechless, she created a miniature galaxy in the air before them, showing the approach of the Void Seekers in terrifying detail. "We don't have much time," Zara explained, her voice resonating on multiple levels. "The Void Seekers will reach the outer edges of our galaxy within a decade. We must prepare." The next months were a whirlwind of activity. The Galactic Cooperation Project, once focused on cultural exchange and scientific collaboration, now became the driving force behind a massive mobilization effort. Chen found herself at the center of it all, working tirelessly to coordinate the various species and factions. The knowledge imparted by the precursors allowed for incredible leaps in technology, quantum communication networks that spanned the galaxy, energy sources that tapped into the fundamental forces of the universe, and defenses that could alter the very fabric of spacetime. But the greatest challenge lay in helping others achieve the same awakening that Chen and her crew had experienced. It wasn't just a matter of technological advancement, but a fundamental shift in consciousness. "We're asking people to transcend their very notion of self," Chen explained to a group of Federation scientists. It's not an easy process, and not everyone will be willing or able to take that step. Indeed, resistance to the changes began to grow. Some saw the awakening as a threat to their way of life, others as a violation of the natural order. Fringe groups began to emerge, denouncing Chen and her allies as dangerous radicals who would destroy everything in their misguided attempt to save it. As the years passed, the galaxy became increasingly divided. Those who embraced the awakening found themselves evolving at an astounding rate, their consciousness expanding to encompass ever greater aspects of reality. But they were still a minority, viewed with a mixture of reverence and fear by the unchanged masses. 5 years after their encounter with Aeonis, Chen stood on the bridge of a new vessel, the U.S. Transcendence, a ship that was as much a work of art as it was a technological marvel. Built with precursor-inspired technology, it was capable of feats that would have seemed like magic just a few years earlier. Status report, Chen said, her voice carrying layers of subspace harmonics. Commander Rees, his form now a shimmering hologram of energy, responded. The Void Seekers have breached the galactic barrier, Captain. They'll reach populated systems within months. Chen nodded, feeling the weight of trillions of lives resting on their actions. Send word to our allies. It's time to implement the Omega Protocol. As the Transcendence leaped into transwarp, Chen reflected on how far they'd come and how far they still had to go. The Omega Protocol was their last, best hope, a plan to fundamentally alter the nature of their galaxy, making it inhospitable to the Void Seekers. But it came at a terrible cost. The process would force the final stage of evolution on every sentient being in the Milky Way, ready or not. Those who couldn't adapt would be lost, their consciousness scattered to the cosmic winds. As they approached the galactic core, where the device that would trigger the Omega Protocol waited, Chen felt a moment of doubt. Were they right to make this choice for an entire galaxy? But then she sensed them, the Void Seekers, their vast, hungry consciousness pressing against the edges of her awareness, and she knew that there was no other way. Prepare to activate the device, Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her heart. As the countdown began, she sent out a final thought to every mind in the galaxy, a promise, a plea, and a hope for the future. In a blinding flash of energy, the Omega Protocol activated. A wave of transformative power swept through the Milky Way, rewriting the very laws of physics. And in that moment, as an entire galaxy took its next evolutionary step, the true battle for existence began. The story of Captain Sarah Chen and the U.S. Intrepid had led to this, the dawn of a new age and the beginning of a war for the very soul of the cosmos.